For many of us, turning on the tap or flushing the toilet is something we take for granted. But a report released today shows more than 2 million Americans live without these conveniences, and Native Americans are more likely to have trouble accessing water than any other group.
Around 4 billion people, almost 2/3 of the living human race, experience water scarcity for at least 1 month out of the year. These problems will worsen. Even setting aside, for a moment, adverse impacts of climate change, human demand for fresh water is expected to rise to more than 6 trillion cubic meters per year by the middle of the century, more than 50% higher than today. So many people in the world are experiencing issues with safe water access, and this does not exclude those living within our own borders. And the people who got to our land first are the groups experiencing the worst of it. My purpose is to explain and raise awareness about the reservation water crisis, an injustice that has long been undiscussed in public media and needs to be addressed more directly. This information and all the ways to help need to be shared and spread. Being well funded in a New England based school, most of the Brown community takes access to safe running water for granted. This issue has been affecting countless Indigenous lives for far too long. It is so important for people who can donate to contribute to improving the lives of those who got here first. As the United States continued to recognize tribes as nations within reservations, water rights remained a core aspect of tribal sovereignty. Though not explicitly mentioned in the treaties that created reservations, the Supreme Court has held that water rights were reserved for Indian tribes on the date a tribe's reservation was created. The rationale behind the court's ruling is that the purpose of the reservations was to convert Native Americans into farmers, so the tribes would need water rights to irrigate their crops grown on barren reservation lands. So the quantity of water tribes are entitled to is pretty unrelated to its quality. Tribal water rights have remained federally ignored until the creation of the Environmental Protection Agency, and so the EPA's policy is to have a meaningful communication and coordination between the EPA and tribal officials prior to the EPA taking any actions or implementing decisions that may affect tribes. But this has not played out exactly this way. According to the federal government, to be treated as states under the Clean Water Act and the Safe Drinking Water Act, tribes must meet 4 criteria. So the tribe must be federally recognized, so it must have a direct government to government relationship with the United States. The tribe's government must be capable of carrying out substantial governmental duties and power. The bodies of water the tribe is regulating must be located within the borders of the tribe's reservation, and the EPA regional administrator must declare the tribe capable of implementing the Water Quality Standards Program consistently with the purposes of the CWA and the SDWA. This information is included to show that though the EPA has worked with tribal leaders, not every tribe qualifies to be federally protected under the CWA or SDWA. In some of the United States' most important water legislation, Native American tribes have still had to jump through hoops to be included. Though the list of unfair facts revolving around the Native American water issue is endless, these are a few that stuck out to me. The average Navajo can only use 7 gallons of water a day. The average American uses approximately 100 gallons of water a day. And the average in California is 362 gallons a day. California is very close to the Navajo Nation, sharing a very similar aridity index. Approximately half of tribal homes lack clean drinking water or access to a reliable source of water at all. Outside of Indian country, less than 1% of homes in the United States lack adequate sanitation structures like sinks, yet this is overwhelmingly common on a reservation. American Indians are more than twice as likely to live in overcrowded homes as non-Indian families. This does nothing but worsen the issue. Pictured is the Global Land Aridity Index map of the region of the Navajo Nation. It is clear that much of the area is arid or hyper-arid, making the issue a struggle from the very start. The Navajo Nation, which covers nearly 27,000 square miles, straddling the U.S. states of Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah, competes with growing cities like Phoenix for its water supply in an already very dry region. It's not the people of Phoenix who will suffer. It's people like Darlene Yazzie of the Navajo Nation. The nearest water station for Darlene Yazzie is 9 miles away at the Denahotso Chapter House, a community center in the Four Corners region of the Navajo Nation. Getting water for herself and her sheep is not only difficult, but expensive. It costs $1.10 plus gas money to fill up two 50-gallon barrels, and the price is going up next month. Another case takes place in the Alaska Native village of Kivalina. Becky Norton, unpictured, and the 7 other people she's living with empty their waste into sewage pots outside their house at least twice a day to keep it from stinking, because their Alaska Native village has no septic system. Becky Norton lives in one of only 10 homes in Kivalina with running water, and about 7.5% of Native American and Alaska Native homes did not have safe drinking water or basic sanitation as of 2013. Not having access to clean water on reservation land means an inability to wash your hands at all. During a pandemic, this is one of the worst situations to be in. The Navajo Nation, along with many other reservations, have been disproportionately affected by the current coronavirus because of the water injustices that they suffer. In addition to water not being of access, what they do have access to is often contaminated. From 1944 to 1986, nearly 30 million tons of uranium ore were extracted from the Navajo lands under leases with the Navajo Nation. The legacy still lives on today, with over 500 abandoned mines remaining in the area. The effect on Navajo health has been horrible. Bone cancer and impaired kidney function from exposure to the radionucleotides in the drinking water has plagued the people of the Navajo Nation. There are some federal efforts being put into place to aid the situation. Since 2003, the Indian Health Service, EPA, and HUD have worked cooperatively to provide access to safe drinking water for over 3,000 homes in the abandoned uranium mine regions of the Navajo Nation. This has helped lower the percentage of the population without access to piped water to their homes to about 15%. As discussed in class, there are many Superfund projects revolving around these abandoned mine sites. Almost half of the abandoned mines are underway in the assessment and cleanup processes. On top of this, there are 46 priority mines that pose the greatest threats and are receiving the most attention out of all of the mine sites. The U.S. government's relationship with reservations does not technically encompass the right to provide tribes with water. However, the United States drastically underfunds tribal water safety. Tribes only received 75 cents for every $100 needed from the Safe Drinking Water Revolving Fund. This is less than a third of what the least funded state receives. Being a college student, one of the most powerful ways to help is understanding that the government can and should be doing more to aid Native Americans in this struggle. You have the ability to spread awareness that the U.S. legislation needs to have official changes. Also, if donating is an option, this is one of the most concrete ways to support the cause. An organization to consider assisting is Dig Deep, specifically the Navajo Water Project. Dig Deep is a human rights nonprofit serving 22+ million Americans without the sinks, bathtubs, and toilets that the rest of us take for granted. It takes just 24 hours to bring clean, hot, and cold running water to a Navajo family, which is important since more than 30% still don't have tap or toilet at home. The Navajo Water Project donates 100% of your money to water installations that will help stop the spread of COVID-19. Just $90 will pay for a new sink and faucet for a family. $250 will pay for a solar panel to pump the water and power the lights inside. Just $4,500 brings hot and cold running water and light to an entire home, transforming a family's life forever. The United States has a sacred obligation to look after the welfare of tribes. Considering that the Native Americans utilized our water sources before any colonizer forced them out, respecting the trust relationship that we have in place with the Native people is the least we can do, and ensuring safe water access should be a priority. American Indigenous people did nothing to deserve unequal treatment in terms of water access, and the federal government is certainly not doing enough to support the fundamental rights of the people who utilized our waterways first. You have the ability to help in any way you are able, and please do so.